following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to the Adventure of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
Yo! I'm back from Rocklahoma. I can't say I'm in good shape, though. I am recuperating, and I'm a hurting pup right now. But there's lots for us to talk about Rocklahoma. There's also lots for us to talk about in the second half of the show, where we're going to have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Karla Hylton, and she is a very well-educated educator. But more importantly, we're going to talk today, you see behind me, September is Suicide Prevention Month. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about suicide prevention, and there's a lot of things we're going to discuss with Dr. Hylton. But first, let's bring on the pipe nuts. There they are, Rebel Meddler. The Rebel Meddler with the green screen with no virtual background, like Rebel. Okay, I keep telling you. Nobody just has a green screen, okay? Nobody wants to look at some wrinkled green thing behind you. All right?
Well, it's progress. It's progress. You didn't like the blue screen, so I got a green one.
That doesn't mean I like the green any better. Now look at Juan's virtual background.
He's not in a virtual background.
It's almost as if it's actually there.
He's actually in our studio with real stuff going on instead of something that looks like a wrinkled sheet.
It's not a wrinkled sheet. It is a green screen.
I know it is. I'm saying what it looks like. And you're missing a little corner there. I can see what you're trying to hide from us, so maybe move your screen over a little bit. But yes, as I was saying, I just got back from Rocklahoma. I'm recuperating. I don't know if you could hear it, but first of all, I had totally lost my voice because I did like 18 interviews and some gigs and screaming and all that good stuff.
Surfing.
So, no, I don't do crowd surfing. I don't trust people that much. But a friend of mine did break her ankle crowd surfing at Rocklahoma.
Tent hopping?
There's a reason. Oh, tent hopping. Well, that may be not tent hopping. Well, yeah, maybe tent hopping too. Okay. But what I am going to say, but I'm starting to get my voice back now, but I also have festival flu. Can either one of you describe to me what festival flu is?
Yes, it's just the crud that you get from being around all these people and all the fun and everything.
It's not.
Was it raining?
No. What was it raining? That has nothing to do with it. But yes, the first day, not the pre-party, but the first day, it was raining and we got evacuated.
Did they spread anything on the ground to absorb the water from the rain?
That's not what it is. Festival flu is at every festival, there's a ton of dust that you're breathing in the air. And when you're there all day, every day, breathing in, especially doing interviews, because I'm breathing in talking, at the end of it, it's all inside your head and you can't breathe. And I don't mean in your head mentally, I mean physically. And literally, you can, sometimes some festivals, like you could cough up like rocks, like little pebbles. It's really a trip. Okay. But yeah, so my nose
What
is
exactly
totally
are you
stuffed.
doing to cough up pebbles?
It's what you breathe. There's 75,000 people there running and walking and moshing and everything else through dust. And it
Here's a
is,
question.
yes.
What's worse, coughing up pebbles or passing
See
stones?
dust.
I would say
Pipeman
passing
stones.
stones definitely is. Okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I do have one sitting there that could pass at any time. I don't want that to happen. But let me tell you something, how it's amazing because some people might look at this show, like we talked about in the beginning of the show. The first half, we're going to do a recap on Rocklahoma on the Pipeman radio tour. And the second half, I said, we have a special, very special guest, Dr. Karla Hylton, which if she can hear me, she's backstage right now. And if she wants us to bring her on ahead of time and talk about shenanigans of a music festival, she can nod her head yes. But if she just wants to stay in the background and watch, that's
She
fine.
nodded no.
I know, right? So, but basically, there is, we talked about it's Suicide Prevention Month, and we're going to be talking about suicide prevention and suicidal ideation. And the thing is, some people will say, well, how do you put those two subjects together? Well, first of all, in the music industry, suicidal ideation and suicide itself is rampant. Okay. Last a couple years ago, we lost two major people. We've lost many, many people that you think they're living the dream life. Like you look at them and they're like, man, they are the luckiest person on earth. But then they're not. Okay. And we don't
That's
know
because
what.
people don't realize what goes on. There's a
Well, and
lot. Look at
you
Robin
don't know what's
Williams.
going on in somebody's head either, or what they've been through. Most people don't show all that stuff. They just live with it. And that's why they get to the point they do, because they're not talking to anybody except the voice in their head. And as things get darker, we need voices outside of our head. That's my opinion. Okay. And so, yeah, there was one band that I interviewed this weekend that literally the person that formed the band was suicidal before forming the band, and forming the band changed his life. Music changes people's life. It's some of the best therapy. And multiple of the artists that were at this festival this weekend have had some kind of issues with mental health, suicidal ideation, and it looks like the dream life, but it can be the rough life too. You don't know what somebody else is going through. Okay. And so if you guys listen to my interviews that'll be coming out in a couple days from Rocklahoma, you'll hear a lot of this too, and you'll hear about that one band. Rebel, why don't you tell everybody all the bands that I interviewed at Rocklahoma?
I wasn't there. I don't know all the bands that you interviewed at Rocklahoma.
Well, you
I'm
should have
sure I'm
done
going to find out soon.
you should have done your research. That's your job, is to do your research. So
Among
good.
other things.
But seriously though, yeah. So here's who we interviewed, just so you know. Okay, we had the official pre-party. Didn't even have media credentials yet. I had to sneak in to do the interview. Okay, but I told people I snuck in. I never sneak in without telling people. It's once you're in, you're in. No, but seriously, I interviewed they have this one stage. It's really cool. And on the pre-party night, it was only that stage. And basically it's like 80s glam hair metal band type stuff. So that night, Faster Pussycat played. Ooh,
Really?
yeah. And
Did
I
you
told
interview
somebody
them?
I did not, but I did hang out with them in the trailer and they were drinking. So I think that's better than the interview. Just saying. No, we weren't.
Wholeheartedly
They
agree.
actually came into the trailer I was in with another band to ask for some alcohol. And the other band was a young, newer band that they felt so cool that Faster Pussycat asked them for some alcohol, but that backstage shenanigans, some of it's there. It's not, it's not what people think it is either sometimes, but
Sometimes.
there were some shenanigans. There's some things we're going to have to talk about that and shenanigans at the festival and in the campground. But first of all, okay, so we interviewed Scarlet Rocks on the pre-party night. So there was a band, Eyebolt, that played that night. We interviewed them too, but the next day, okay? And then you're going to be real upset, Rebel. You're going to be real upset. Can you guess who was the headliner of that night? Okay, so there's two reasons you're going to be upset. One is that you missed it. The second is that while I talk about the rest of the interviews, you're going to do your job and you're going to look up who the headliner was that night. So
Can
let's
I guess?
see. You can guess, sure.
Motley Crue.
No,
Slayer.
no, not even close with the Slayer. Closer with the Motley Crue.
Is it an 80s band?
Yeah, no, it's a lead singer of an 80s band.
Vince Neil?
No. You're not going to get it right because you didn't do your research. Let's see if Juan takes a guess, if he gets even closer than you, because I bet you he's researching it while we're talking and
He's
arguing
done the
about it.
videos and the interviews.
No, he doesn't do these interviews.
I don't know. Slipknot?
No, that was the headliner of the whole festival. They're not playing the pre-party.
Was
Okay.
there a specific day that they played on?
Sebastian
Yes, the
Bach.
pre-party night, Thursday night. No, but you're getting close.
Tom Kiefer?
That's it. You did it. Ding, ding, ding. Do you know what band Tom Kiefer is from, Rebel? Because if you don't, you are ashamed to all people that say they like 80s metal.
Cinderella?
Very good. Ding, ding, ding. She won. Oh, my God. I'm so shocked. So that was the first night, okay? And then the second day, I didn't get to see a lot of sets I wanted to see because I was too busy in media, which happens. That happens quite often. But I did catch some really good shows. But Friday, first day, official day of the festival, like I said, I interviewed Eyebolt. I also interviewed Dime Store Riot. And then we got there was another band that I interviewed, but then we got evacuated due to weather. And so I was going to miss my last interview, but she stuck around and we connected after we got back in the festival hours later and did the interview. It was one of the best. It was one of the best interviews we had. That was Eva Under Fire. Then Saturday we interviewed Austin Mead, Surge, Bad Wolves, Color of Chaos, Royal Lynn. Sunday we interviewed 10 Cent Revenge, Giovanni and the Hired Guns, Nothing More, Raven's Banquet, Vended, who is the son of Clown and Corey from Slipknot, and they are that band, and a few other people, and that band's badass. Any Given Sin and Oxymorons. Now, in Oxymorons, spelled with 2 R's, okay, during the interview, one of them was wearing a shirt, their own band shirt, that I was like, that's really cool. I really dug it. And I was wearing a Rocklahoma shirt. So he came up with the idea in the interview because he could always get another one of his own band shirts, but he couldn't get the Rocklahoma shirt from 2 years ago that I had. He said during the interview, okay, let's trade shirts. So we both stood up there in media during the interview and took off our shirts, exchanged, and that's the shirt we wore for the rest of the day. And then I was hanging out with him later at sets. It was so funny because he was wearing my shirt, I was wearing his shirt. So there it is.
Did you get to keep his shirt?
Yeah, and he kept mine.
It was a trade forever.
It was a trade forever. It was
Did
a
he
trade
sign it?
forever. So I'll never be able to recapture that Rocklahoma shirt, but I have a cool shirt too. So who
You
knows?
never know. You might meet up again at another festival, and switch out.
That absolutely true. So everybody has to check out the interviews. They'll be on my podcast on iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and like over 100 others. So just check it out. All the interviews from Rocklahoma will be there. And on Spotify, there will even be a playlist for all 18 interviews. Okay. So do you want to talk about the other shenanigans? You do.
I do.
What would you like to know? How about you guys interview me about Rocklahoma? Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. Let's interview you with the Rocklahoma. Juan, you want to go first?
Sure. How many tents did you visit?
So let me think. 1,
Be honest.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because 7.
Was that in one night in total?
That was just the first night.
So that's not counting the second, the third, or the fourth night?
No. I lost count at that point.
Oh.
Next question.
For our audience to know, for the listeners to know, what are you talking about when we talk about those tents?
What do you mean? What are we talking about when we talk? They're tents.
What happens in the tent stays in the tent.
Exactly.
No. It's a campground. Rocklahoma, you've told us before that Rocklahoma is the best camping experience. So what happens? What do you mean when you talk about the tents?
So, okay. First of all, my old neighbor, they have this school bus, and they're friends of mine now. But I met them at Rocklahoma a few years ago. Okay, so this is the one festival I do choose to camp at because the campgrounds are just insane, okay? And there isn't a place to get a room for like an hour anyway. So basically, let me tell you what goes on every night. So you got, or here's my day. All day long from like morning till somewhere between 5 and 7, I'm doing interviews. I'm in the press area. After that, I go out and venture into the festival and go watch some music. And at this festival, I go and I stand on stage to watch the bands. And I just want to tell people, by the way, you think it's cool to stand side stage. It is once. But the sound is terrible. The only thing you hear from there is the drums, because everything else is facing out. But you're hanging out with your friends and, like stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. So then the headliner plays, the headliner's done. Now you have to go out into the campground. And you take a right, and within a couple blocks is the strip club campsite. Now, this isn't like your normal strip club thing, okay? They have like these contests and karaoke contests on the stage, and everybody congregates there. I can tell you there were more guys up on the stage than women. And the guys up on the stage were not, let's say, stripper types. Okay? We'll just say that.
They never are.
Okay? So
there's a market for everyone. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's right.
That's true.
And so, like almost all the campsites in the campgrounds, they have this thing. Okay, our guests might want to close their ears, but where they give away shots for boobs. If you male or female, you show your boobs, you get a shot for free. They love giving free alcohol in that campground, and so there's that, and then there's beads. Okay, you're from Louisiana. Why are people so obsessed with Mardi Gras beads? Okay, like
I never could understand that.
I don't get it, but listen, you can know a lot about a person at this festival by how many beads they have around their neck. And there's bracelets too. There's bracelets too. Every like these type of bracelets, every campground they hand one out to you. Like I had a whole armful of them. Okay. And I'm walking around with other bands and I'm introducing them to the campgrounds because it's like during the interview, have you gone out to the campground? No. Oh man. Well, you gotta go out. So we'll hang out, watch the last band, and we'll go out into the campground. And it's a very shocking experience even for them. Okay. So basically, there's a lot of shenanigans and people watching going on. Since I rarely ever drink, I'm just people watching the insanity because people are getting super duper drunk, like beyond drunk. Okay. And I'm just watching and laughing at these people. I will tell you, there was the first night something having to do with golf cart races and donuts and people flying off the golf carts in fishtails.
Oh my.
That's all I'm going to say about that, except the fact that I held on tight and didn't go off. It was like a flatbed golf cart. So there was that. And then, so my old neighbors, what they did is they built they have this school bus and they built a deck on top of it. And they're totally cool. Every morning they invite me over for breakfast, and they'll take good care of me. But at night, the shenanigans start. Because this big deck, like, first of all, you could see the headliner band from their deck and hear it clear as day. So you don't even have to go in the venue. But there's a big sign on the other side with the name of the bus and what you do to get some beads. So the name of the bus, okay, and our guests might want to keep her ears closed for this one, are Bus, Boobs, and Buttholes. That's the name of the bus. I have the wristband.
Oh, wow.
I have the wristband to prove it. And everybody stands on top of the bus while all the festival campers are walking around. And they pass by and they come up and they either show their boobs or their butthole to get beads. So again, what's the fascination with beads? I'm not ever even showing my hand for a bead, okay? Like, I don't get it.
Well, there is a kink for fascination that involves beads and buttholes, but I think that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a totally different story because this is nothing
Different
sexual.
kind of
It's
beads.
just show your boobs and butthole and walk away. That's it.
I never understood that. Why do people decide to do that? The beads might cost, okay, once upon a time they cost 4 cents. They might cost $1 these days. I don't know what inflation. But really, that's what you're worth. Your self-worth is for that one moment in time to expose yourself in public, which is illegal, by the way, in almost everywhere. Except Amsterdam. But I'm sorry.
But wait, if it's a private venue with a private event, I don't know if that counts. And the police
I don't know. It doesn't come to Mardi Gras either. And that's in public.
Let's just say this. The police officers are on the campground.
They enjoy
And
it.
I've even seen them come up on top of the bus to watch too. Okay?
They're there for their enjoyment, pleasure.
Exactly. Okay? But let me tell you something.
It's
not all it's cracked up to be. Just like fantasies, like some things just remain a fantasy because this all sounds like some kind of fantasy. But I'm telling you, every single person I saw show their privates are people that probably shouldn't show their privates.
No, wait a minute. No. I can say that I've seen all types of people from doctors to lawyers to all types of strippers, all showing their stuff during Mardi Gras.
Yeah,
it's
well,
amazing
exactly.
With alcohol
and Mardi Gras is the, like Sodom and Gomorrah of today's modern world.
I knew he was
today's modern world. And so one of our listeners said, not typical male strippers. Rebel might like that.
Said that. Rebel, you said date one.
Knows you, Rebel. And you're proof that Louisiana is the Sodom and Gomorrah of today.
I proof of that.
There's a lot we could say, but we have to save that for another time. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to say 75,000 people were in attendance. Rocklahoma was so killer. I got 10 hours sleep in 5 days. I got the festival flu. I lost my voice, but it was all worth it. And I actually didn't. I didn't get to actually sleep till like Monday night. So I'm still recovering. I'm still recuperating, but we have important things to talk about because forget those shenanigans and that stuff. That's not really that important. Maybe next week we'll even talk more about it because I also have coming up on the Pipeman Radio Tour. This month is a busy month. Next week we have Punk in the Park in Orlando. Then I have Bourbon and Beyond. We're giving tickets away for, but I'm not going. I'm going to Riot Fest. And then Louder Than Life. And then the final No Effects show ever in history. And then Aftershock. And there is a festival coming up that I'm doing ticket giveaways too at that same venue Rocklahoma was at. But it's called Born and Raised. So I think what we need to do, we have our guest coming on here in just a minute. And again, for those of you that weren't here from the very beginning, we have a very special guest, and it's very appropriate since this month is September Suicide Prevention Month. So we have Dr. Karla Hylton with us, and we are going to delve into the deeply personal and transformative theme of overcoming suicidal ideation. And it's explored in her book, The Unvarnished Truth, Purpose in the Pain. I'm so much a believer in that. That title is so amazing. So we're going to talk in depth about that. But before we bring her on, we do still have tickets to give away for Born and Raised, maybe Bourbon and Beyond, although I think if any, it's just one left. Maybe Louder Than Life. If so, maybe one left. Maybe Aftershock. But let's hear what Born and Raised and Bourbon and Beyond are all about.
The world's biggest bourbon and music festival, Bourbon and Beyond 2024. A perfect blend of bourbon, culinary, and music with Zach Bryan, Dave Matthews Band, Tyler Childers, Neil Young, Beck, and Louisville's own My Morning Jacket, Matchbox 20, Cody Jinks, Merritt Morris, and more. September 19th through 22nd in Louisville, Kentucky. On sale now at bourbonandbeyond.com.
Dust the red dirt off your boots and get all your rowdy friends together. Born and Raised Music Festival is back for one hell of a weekend. September 13th through 15th, 2024 in Pryor, Oklahoma. Featuring Cody Johnson.
If you got a chance, take it.
Hank Williams Jr.
All my rowdy friends are coming over tonight.
Cole Wetzel.
You have something to talk about.
Midland.
People say I got a drinking problem.
Dwight Yoakam.
Oh, so good.
Plus the Red Clay Strays, Shane Smith and the Saints, Paul Coffin, Treaty Oak Revival, the Cadillac 3, and many more. Passes and camping on sale now at bornandraisedfestival.com, starting at $10 down. The best camping and the rowdiest party. The festival for the outlaw and all of us. Born and Raised.
Yeehaw! That's not my festival. I'll do the ticket giveaways, but I don't think I'm going there. But there is some of them that I like there. But I do want to add to that Bourbon and Beyond commercial that we played didn't have the latest edition, which is Sting is now headlining that festival. But enough about that stuff. Now we go on to the good stuff because we have here our very special guest who, man, not only am I impressed by her educational background, but I am impressed of what she's doing with the world and helping people. And, we are living in dark times where a lot of people need healing. And this is just the person to help. And so let's welcome to the show Dr. Karla Hylton. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And so maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about your background, about yourself, and what led you to be here with us today talking about things like suicidal ideation.
Okay, well, I am an educator. I actually have a doctorate in biotechnology, and I have been an educator for perhaps about almost 30 years. However,
Wow.
I've had my own mental health struggles throughout my life from childhood, and I decided to write a memoir because I have been through a whole lot, and I want to help persons to overcome some of these struggles that I have been through. I'm actually from Jamaica, so my memoir, The Unvarnished Truth, actually takes the readers through my journey, my life as a Jamaican living in Jamaica, and the struggles I had to overcome. Of course, everyone has their own struggles. However, I feel as if I'm in the unique position of having had suicidal thoughts and have actually attempted twice to help persons with their own mental health problems. Because I have been to many psychologists, psychiatrists, taken many medications, etc., etc. But the work was hard and it had to come from within.
Yeah.
So basically, that's who I am.
I think we all have our stories too. And, you know, I will say something here that I probably have never said on the show ever, and Rebel can testify because she's been with me for like 12 years on the show. But when I was a teenager, I experienced suicide attempts in my family, and that I had to deal with, that I was a major part of. And so there's that other side, is looking at other people and, you know, what they're going through. Not to mention that most people don't really know what any of us is going through because we don't show them. That's what society teaches us. And so then it feels like we're all alone in the world and we have no support system, you know, and that's self-created, of course, but it doesn't matter whether it's self-created or not, you know, and it doesn't even matter if it's true or not. It's how you feel that matters, in my opinion. You know, I mean, somebody could say, you know, it's all right, blah, 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 blah. But if you don't feel that way, it's not all right, for sure. And so I'm very thankful for somebody like you that can help others, because it is those of us who have had firsthand experiences that are best, you know, we have the best tools to help others, because how many people that are in that darkness think that nobody could understand them?
Right.
So, you know, if they know that you do understand, that's a whole different story. And, you know, let's talk about the music before, and that's so true. Like, how many people relate to the lyrics of songs and that gets them through it? There's so many different things that could get you through it. Sometimes we don't know what it is, you know, and sometimes we do need guidance by somebody like yourself. So, what do you think was the impetus that made you to go into this realm specifically to help people that have suicidal ideation?
Okay. I felt that sharing my story was a necessary evil, so to speak. It was necessary for persons to know that people that appear to be successful, they're educated, they write, because I used to write for the newspaper, etc., can actually have feelings of despair, even though things appear to be going well.
Yeah.
Right, on the surface. And I also wrote the book because I'm very committed to raising awareness and to reach out to those who are struggling, because I know That is very critical to have the right type of support during the moments of, these dark thoughts moving across your mind. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is also why I went on to write the workbook, which is called Vanquishing Monsters. And that is to offer practical exercises so that persons can help themselves to work through some of the issues they may be going through. My goal ultimately is to inspire others to hold on, to seek help, and to believe that there are brighter days ahead.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt? What is the name of that workbook again?
Vanquishing Monsters.
And I got to say that the workbook to me is brilliant because and that is part of the work, isn't it? It's like sometimes you have to take these kind of actions, write things down. And I know also like there's a big difference when you have stuff in your head compared to writing it down and looking at it after you wrote it down. So I think it's ultra, ultra important. And I think it's kind of cathartic to go through a workbook like that to kind of get everything out of you.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, a lot of the techniques, perhaps persons already know, perhaps they don't know, but then just having it all in one space, one, workbook. I went through so many aspects of mental health. It's not just suicidal ideation, but things such as abuse, the people pleasing nature, spirituality, as well as parenthood, divorce, marriage. So it's not just focused on suicidal ideation. It goes through many topics that affect us, that can lead to suicidal ideation.
Yeah. And, the fact is, okay, so as an example, you mentioned divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Divorce, they've done surveys, and divorce is feared more than death. And I've seen people in my life that were the most positive, mentally strong people get destroyed by divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And it is tough. And it can lead to situations that are very dark and possible, suicidal thoughts and who knows, especially depending on what you're going through. And that's another example too. It's like, it's amazing when you get divorced, how many of your neighbors that you saw every day that had no clue.
Yep.
And that's the same for mental health.
Very, very true. And we really need to remove that stigma. We need to have people speaking up about how they feel. I mean, emotional health is just as important, if not more important, than physical health. So,
Well, and emotional health,
Mhm.
if it's bad, can lead to bad physical health easier
Exactly.
than anything else.
Exactly so.
And the times we live in, stress is so high. Stress is one of the biggest killers there is. And stress is also a killer on our mental health as well.
Mhm. Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I had many stress-related ailments as I was going through my depression. I was diagnosed with autoimmune diseases,
Ugh.
and I am now free of autoimmune diseases because my emotional state is in a much better place.
Yeah. It is a proven fact that your emotional state of mind will cause literal physical ailments. It's
Definitely.
also you take the other side, okay? So there's this exercise that Tony Robbins would have you do in a seminar where you position yourself a certain way and you look up and you put a smile on your face and you think of something really dark from your life. And because of the positioning of your body and how you're doing it, that you still have that smile on your face, even thinking about those dark things.
Mhm. Yes. Yep. So, we really need to spread the word. Suicidal ideation, it's more common than we believe,
Yes.
because so many persons, since I've written the book, have told me that they have experienced similar thoughts. They've called me, strangers called me, wanting to hear more about how I dealt with some of the trauma that I experienced.
Well, I want to hear more, which means listeners want to hear more. So let's hear more about your story, because that's what people relate to, somebody else's story.
Well, that is true. Well, my story is long and very traumatic, but I will give you a few scenes from the book, so to speak. And because it's suicidal ideation we're speaking about mainly today, I would mention that I've had 2 suicide attempts.
Well, thank God you're still here.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I'm happy to be here because I think I will make a difference and help persons. I grew up, as I said, in a small community in Jamaica. I got married at a very young age of 22. During my childhood, I did experience a number of traumatic events, including a home invasion. And so growing up, my ethnicity is Indian, East Indian, and I grew up with parents that were very, very strict, so to speak. And, my dad wanted all his children to succeed academically and do well. So it was all about bookwork, so to speak. So there was a lot of pressure to be perfect, so to speak. And I grew up thinking I was not adequate enough. And I tried to please my parents. And when I went into marriage, tried to please my husband. When I had children, tried to please my children. So it was all about people pleasing. And I suffered from low self-esteem. And again, many people don't believe that because they'll say, well, you are this, you're that, whatever. How could you think so lowly of yourself? And I did. No matter what person said to me, I still, did not feel that I was good enough. And so I've always struggled with the thoughts of why am I here? What is the point of being here? Because of obviously when you have such high standards, you will never reach that pinnacle. You will always think there is something else to achieve and you're not good enough because none of us are perfect, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Now, when you say that you're always striving, people should set goals to always strive to things, but the problem is they should never feel not enough or inadequate. It's good to have goals. It's good to reach for things. But
I totally agree.
If someone's feeling inadequate, they need to look back and see where they came from. And when you start looking back and see where you came from, you'll understand that you are enough, because look how far you've come. If anybody's thinking that they're not enough, please just look back and look where you are now and know that you've made it to the point you're at and you need to keep moving forward.
I completely agree, but at the time I was not of that frame of mind. And in fact, in the workbook, I even talk about setting goals. So it's okay to set goals. It's okay if you fall short. But at the time, my mindset was that, you need to achieve more, or you need to do more. You need to be a better mom, a better wife, a better whatever it might be, So I will probably speak about my second suicide attempt, which was the most dangerous, so to speak. I was in the ICU for a while. And that happened after my separation. I separated from my now ex-husband when both my children were adults, young adults, right? However, one unexpected outcome was that both children decided to estrange themselves from me. And it was just something that I could not deal with.
Yeah.
The second suicide attempt was well planned. It was supposed to work. I decided in my mind, these were the thoughts going through, that I cannot force them to speak to me, right? I don't have that power, but I do have the power to be here or not be here. And so, yes, that was my thinking, of flawed as it was, right? And so I made the very conscious decision that, I had the date planned out, the time, everything, that this was what I was going to do. This is how I was going to do it, etc. It failed. Well, I'm here living proof. And it's also very amazing that it failed, because it should have succeeded. I used my scientific knowledge and I thought everything was going to work, but it did not. But I'm grateful. I'm sure that there was a higher power that pulled me out of that coma.
Of course, no doubt about it.
Mhm.
And, unfortunately, with this whole scenario, that kids are more suicidal than ever from what I've seen. And we actually know here at the network, because we used to have a whole thing of kind of like the Breakfast Club. We had a bunch of teenagers that would never be together in school, that were all doing radio shows, and we had them talking about all the hard topics that teens have. And we had a connection with 211 and Department of Safe Schools. And a big part of what they talked about was suicidal ideation and how they could get help. And we actually, there was somebody, you remember, Rebel, there was somebody that was in a chat room for one of the shows, and literally because of the show, we got them help to go to 211 and actually get some help, whereas this teenager probably never would have. And, and the reason it's so important to have people like you right now is those same teenagers, if they make it through teenage world, when they become adults, it doesn't necessarily go away unless they have the right help. So they need people like you that, especially the fact that you had the experiences you did, because then they can relate to you and they're more open to listening and knowing that you did it, so then they're open to listening. They're not going to listen to somebody that just says, hey, it's okay, you'll be fine, and that's what you and I grew up in. It's okay, you'll be fine, or stop making a big deal, or like there's a myriad of other statements made by your parents, your teachers, any authority figure back in our day that was not necessarily helpful. And that's why I think there's a lot of mental anguish today, is because a lot of people from our generation had things bottled up, and then it comes out later in life because you have to deal with it at some point in time. So, how do our listeners, or anybody for that matter, connect with you on socials, on the web, and more that you can help them as well, and also to get your books and all that good stuff?
Okay, well, I would direct them to my website, which is www.khylton. Hilton is spelled HYLTON.com. Lots of information there, as well as free resources for those who might be feeling suicidal or have other issues. The books are available on Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble. And there is a contact form on my website, so I am very happy to speak to anybody who is feeling suicidal.
Well, that's amazing. And what you're doing is amazing. We're going to have you talk a lot more, because certainly in one interview, you can't cover the whole realm. And certainly there's, a lot of different aspects of this discussion that we haven't even touched on today. If you were to leave our audience with one final bit of advice or information or whatever in that realm, what would it be?
Okay, I think my ultimate message is one of empowerment. I want listeners to know that no matter how dark the night, there is always a dawn. And I know you can't really see that right away, but there is. You have to believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I want listeners to move towards a brighter, more fulfilling future. It's there for everyone.
It absolutely is. And yes, and it's also usually darkest before the dawn. So that's where the hope is. You know, if you think you're in the darkest place of your life, there is hope that it's darkest before the dawn. And hopefully, you know, you can see that, experience it, or you have somebody like Dr. Karla Hylton that can help you through it from her own life experiences. So I want to thank you very much for all you do to help people out there in the world. And thank you for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure is all ours. And so you know what, Juan? I'm just going to say everybody needs to tune in next week and every week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, to the Adventures of Pipeman. Make sure you go to anywhere you listen to podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, Audible, or over 100 other places. And if you missed any part of this show, you'll be able to hear this show again. And you can look up my interviews from Rocklahoma and more. So stay tuned. We'll be back with you live next week. Roll it, Juan.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.